If you've got an outdoor rabbitry like I've got, and you've got these type of feeders, maybe these galvanized style feeders, you already know what a pain that it is when it rains and your feed gets wet. If you're using extruded feed, maybe a pellet style feed, it's very easy for that feed to get wet and spoil, and you can even make your rabbits sick. So what do? Well, I've lived in Florida for quite a while. I've had a rabbitry here for many years, and I've had to come up with something that helps me, and I'd say it probably reduces it by about 95%. So if you'll stick around for a little while, I'll share with you exactly what I've done to try and prevent my feed from getting. So there's a couple different types of J feeders, galvanized feeders, that's what they call this. And I'm not going to talk about some of the ones that you can screw in from the outside of the cage where you don't have to cut the cage wire. I'm just going to primarily talk about the J style feeder. This particular one does not have a lid on it. I don't really care for the ones without a lid on it. Now, if you're in a barn, maybe you can get by with that. I don't really care for the one without a lid because, to me, I know that a rat or a mouse, mice, whatever, can still get in these things, but it's a little less likely. We can put it that way. And on top of that, some may say, well, hey, you can still get rodents in your cage. Less likely for me because I use 1/2-inch wire all the way around my whole entire cage. I don't use 1 inch by 1 inch or 1 inch by 2 inch. I use 1/2-inch by 1 inch wire, so that prevents that. But besides that, even if you have a lid on the top of this, you can still get rain, water, or water inside of your feeder. I also use the one with the sifter wire on the bottom. Anytime you've got feed that has powder or dust, you can call it just about any number of things you want to call it, but anytime that you have feed that has that in the bottom of the bag, some feed's worse than others. Sometimes they have a run that's worse than others. I like to get all of that out of there. Anytime you've got this type of screen on the bottom, you're going to have even greater chance of being able to get moisture and that sort of thing. So it's very important that you make sure you keep as much water out. Now, even with a lid, when you have the lid open and the lid shut on the very top of these J feeders, if you notice right on the very corners, I'm going to show you here in a few minutes, even when the lid is shut, if you look very closely on even some of the best made, like this particular one, Pet Lodge, which originally I think they were Little Giant. It's made by Miller Manufacturing. Those are my favorite ones. But still yet, if you look at the very corners of them, you'll notice that there's little gaps on some of them depending on how they're made. So even with a lid, you can still get water in there. So let me show you the way that I keep the water out of my feed. If you've seen any of my other videos, you've probably noticed these feeders in the background and probably wondered what exactly that this is over top of my feeders. Well, what this is, the color is not really relevant. This is a blue upholstery type material similar to vinyl, similar to what you would use on boat seats or other upholstery. And one of the nice benefits of this is the way that it's cut out. I can fold this up. When I come out with both hands, I can pour my feed in there without too much trouble. And it's not an absolute way because obviously water could come blowing in real hard from one angle. But what I'll do is whenever I know that we're going to get a real hard rain or we've got a lot of weather, rainy weather, I will back some of my feed off so there's not as much feed in the feeder, and thereby I don't usually have any issues with it. But one of the reasons I mentioned earlier that these feeders, if you have water that sits on here, the water will drip down this edge, and then this little spot right here, some of your feeders, not all of them, but some of them, depending on how that they were made from the factory, will get gaps right around this edge here. See if I can find another one maybe and show you. And what they'll do is that rainwater will drip right around this edge and it'll go right inside your feeder, drip down into here. And so the lid's great, but not exactly perfect. And some of these are worse than others. Whenever I pick these out, when I buy them, I try to pick the ones that cover the best. If I could give you the perfect above angle, you could see exactly what I was talking about. Another problem that you'll notice, see this little spot right here? This is a gap where the water could get into. So water pours on this right here, it puddles up, it runs over, and it goes straight into your feed. So this little piece of vinyl, I just hang that up there. As you can see, I've got 3/8 hog ring or cage ring, crab ring, whichever ring you want to call it. And you'll see about how far that I go down with my vinyl, right about to here, and that works out great. I love this, and it works out perfectly for our rabbitry. Being in Florida, we get a lot of rainy weather, as you can imagine, and I have very little issue with that. On the cages that I've got a really big roof covering, then I don't worry as much about it. But I love the vinyl so much that even on my hay feeders, I put it on the top of my hay feeders to prevent any of the rain from puddling up on top of it. Works out real well. And what's even a greater benefit to me, this material was given to me, which is how the whole idea was born in the very beginning. So hopefully that little tip is something that you can use maybe in your rabbitry, if you've got an outdoor rabbitry, or maybe you just got one rabbit outside and you're trying to keep the water out of his feed. So to wrap it up, you just need a little bit of vinyl. You can even, I have used before, if you've got any tarp material, you can use that as well. You just fasten it right across the top. One of the things you want to make sure of is that you don't fasten it in such a way that the rabbits can access it, because they will eat whatever that they can chew on. So none of mine has been chewed on. It's worked out perfect. If you found today's video helpful, hey, like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the notification bell, because we plan to do more videos in the future, and I'm going to share with you some of my personal experience. And there may be some things you already know. You may know more than I know. But hey, it never hurts for us to share things with each other that may benefit one another. There may be a rabbitry in another state, another place, that this information may not apply as well because of your season, your temperature, your weather, your application. But for me, it works out great, and I hope it was a blessing to you. And may God bless you.